So the thing you said a few minutes ago that just feels like it opened up all these portals was around consciousness lives in the body. And if we don't know how to move it, we cannot access all of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start with that juicy nugget drop. Go.
Right. No, it's something that I've been playing with, dabbling with, and just bringing that into that. I wonder, right? That curiosity as to playing, and I've been playing with it for months. And so then as I'm attracting new clientele and being on the table, that's the language. That's what's missing, because these business owners are, high level, getting coaching sessions. I'm like, well, we're not accessing it in your body. Like and I'm like, that's awesome. You just had a coaching call. Let's bring that into the body. Like, we need a lineup when you're going to have that either before or after our sessions, because it's going to dynamically shift for you to access internally. And so even from my own place, when I'm shifting and moving, it's like, if I'm not able to brain-wise connect to something in my body, how do I feel like I'm going to connect to anything else in my life? It's just like, we're looking now at the finite details of our inner system and our circuitry of cleaning house, and we're cleaning it to be more detailed and yet at a higher level, because as things have been shifting in our country and the world for over the last year and a half, like, consciousness is shifting. And so if our bodies are not aligned to that, either you're awaking to it or you're not. So yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, and like we were just saying right before we hopped on the call, was 2 nights ago, all of a sudden I was overcome by this need to just sleep. And you had the same thing last night and this morning. And so there's this place of honoring the body's integration of the different frequencies. The nervous system is recalibrating to different levels of consciousness, different energetic frequencies, and there's this actual legitimate need to rest. like I call it being taken offline, so that the body can recalibrate, because the body is the instrument that's working in the pool of infinite intelligence, and it's best if we calibrate it, right?
Well, right. And we take our mind out of it when we sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the important part of it.
Yeah. So it just reminds me, I want to just share this for people who are watching and listening who are just jumping in. You and I connected years ago in another context. And then as I was working through my own process of recalibrating my identity as athlete, I guess we'd call it, that's how you and I ended up working together starting a year and a half ago or so, because you're the only person that I knew who could speak the language of what my body was actually screaming for. And I could feel it, but I had a hard time articulating it. And so I just want to name it as context. Like, this is your zone of genius, where you can sense and see where the energetics maps to the neurology, maps to the physical form. And you've got like these super x-ray vision goggles and a perception that let you just be like, oh, and I'm like, what is happening? That's exactly it. But you can see it and name it like nobody else can. So just again, to fill in the story for anybody who's listening, I used to race triathlons, I ran marathons, I rock climbed, I rode my bike, just super athletic. And I was racing triathlons when I got pregnant with my son. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll just keep going. I guess I maybe don't need to do the half Ironman while I'm 29 weeks pregnant. So maybe I'll adapt. But so I did do 3 shorter triathlons while I was pregnant. And it was me letting go of my need to do this big Ironman, a half Ironman. That was a trajectory I was on. And yet I forget what it was. It was something around 28 or 34 weeks pregnant, something like that. All of a sudden, my competitive drive just shut off, like gone. And it was like this feminine maternal identity started kicking in. I'm going to be a mother, and being a mother, requires a shift in my operating system. And I didn't know how to be an athlete without a race. And so I kind of lost my whole connection with fitness for a while. And then now my son is 13, so this is years and years ago. But over the years, I was trying to figure out, like, where am I strong again? Because I used to feel strong in my body when I did these races, and I used to feel strong when I worked out. And I love feeling strong, and I don't know how to access that, but I can tell my body is screaming for a different way of becoming strong. And so, anyway, my point with all of that is that I could tell something inside of me was wanting a different, I could call it level of consciousness, but it sounds so vague. There was a subtlety that was missing if I just went and did a workout. It was like not connected to my essence. And my essence was like, I want to sprout strength from the inside out. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And I don't even know who could help me with that, because who speaks this language? So you've been instrumental on my journey of mapping my internal essence through my body into the musculature, so that now as I'm moving, it's integrated, it's flowing, and I can tell there's my spiritual essence, and then it radiates out through the neurology, and then the muscles fire, and now I'm embodied, integrated, and whole as I move. And you have been the single most profound influence in helping me map it, bring it into conscious awareness, take this stuff out of the darkness, and bring it into the light of, like, oh, here I am. All of me now operates as a whole. So just huge, huge gratitude, and thank you for that.
Well, you just seriously, you're saying that, and I saw something different for you, because I've never heard you tell me that story. And so, of course, your circuitry was different because you birthed a child. The energy system of you rewired. And so when you're speaking, I actually wanted to interrupt you. I'm like, and this is what's going on. Like, I'm like, I saw it. I'm like, it's because the circuitry of who you were, an athlete, it's like it, and you birth a child, which is huge energy, but it's like your circuitry is all now shifting and changing because you went through something very warrior like of your body up leveling. And so it was like this, it was here, right? And so you had this, oh, this is in my head, this is where I used to be, but your body was patterning something new, and it's like we needed to like align it again. And so that's exactly what we were doing. But if I would have had that story, maybe we would have gotten there faster, but no, I'm just kidding. But that's really cool that you said that, because exactly that's what I see. It's I'm listening to what you're saying, and there's energies and an alignment of what I can see and feel and do and go, oh, this is what we need to do. Like,
that's right.
It's and gratefully I was in the profession of chiropractic, because I'm aligning the body on one level, but I'm also then aligning just consciousness into the body on a neurological level, because it needs to land into the body, because the mind is partially who we are, the body is the other, and for us to be whole, they need to be
this partnership. So that reminds me then of the other thing that I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm talking to Sarah today, because this is popping up and I want to dive in with you on this. So I was reflecting this morning about, in psychological terms, they call it the locus of control. And the locus of control is your internal sense of, do I have control or autonomy or authority over the moment to impact my environment and make change? And a healthy internal locus of control is essential for creating anything in our lives. And so then the default setting that we're given by society, education, healthcare systems, everything else, is not to have an internal locus of control. It's to externalize that. Look outside yourself always. You actually do not have authority or autonomy or intelligence to know what's going on and make a change, look outside yourself, right? So we're in this fundamental train wreck collectively of like, how's that working for us? Right? And the invitation from consciousness is to restore and regain our internal locus of control and go, wait a minute, I have sovereignty and I have the capacity to sculpt reality for myself and for the collective in ways that are harmonious with my soul, with your soul, with the laws of nature. Okay, so all of that is context to say, I got to thinking, my internal experience has been like, because I was trying to think energetically or metaphorically, what does a locus of control even look like? If we could name it, it's not a thing. What if I were to make it an object? What would it be? Just as a thought experiment. And the image that came to me was like a tree, like the tree of life. And I felt it as my own neurology, my own nervous system, and an internal locus of control, which I think will maybe always be a work in progress, but I feel like I'm operating now from a healthy locus of control. It feels like a blossoming tree, and it has a trunk and it has roots and it has branches that can all run life force through them. And previously, with a healthy locus of control in some areas and then a not so healthy locus of control in other areas, it felt like these tree branches were pinched off and broken, or somehow contracted and twisted in my neurology, and then that impacted my psychology, my behaviors, and my choices. So I'm wondering, what does that spark for you? Like, if you were to take all of that I just said and put it in your terms of how you might talk about it or sense it or see it, what comes up for you?
Yeah. So when you spoke about like the branches that are kind of twisted and like broken or whatever, that's your unconsciousness programming. That's where you're disconnected. And so you can feel it in your body, but it's also where then I physically can see you, or touch you, depending on how we're working. But what you just explained there was like, yeah, that's your pattern that we need to break free. And so that's just where then we access it through whether it's physical movement, breath work, or muscle testing, quite honestly, of like, well, what is that? What unconscious programming is actually being stuck for you that's running your life and you're not aware of it, so that your life force can be what it's supposed to be, which is flourishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's, like I see like the trickle of pixie dust. That image just came to me of how that's how we live from. Like we actually are pixie dust, right? Like our cosmos is in here, which is out there. And so when we're not able to connect within us in our life force, one, I feel that that's where we can become complacent. We check out. We sleep, even though we think that we're conscious beings. We start to idle, and really, it's really about being on our work, of doing our work, of really fleshing that out, so that we really can ultimately be who we want to be, like you said, in that sovereign place.
Yeah. Now, all of that is very resonant, and two things come to mind from there. There's always so many avenues that we could go, but it just, okay, the first thing is when you said the unconscious programs that are running the experience, I heard that in a new way just now when you said that, because the unconscious, so much of it is these patterns that are internalized from the outside world that we've learned through modeling or all sorts of influences from infancy on. It's like the ocean sculpting the fish, basically. And as we wake up and reclaim sovereignty, we become different, in a different relationship with our ecosystem. We become creators of the ecosystem instead of reacting to it. And so the unconscious is like a conglomeration of all these different patterns that we just run automatically. Like that's a given. We know that. But when you said it now, all of a sudden I felt it as the collective consciousness that is the collective unconscious, and how that then, if we have not done the cleanup in our own system, that collective unconscious is what's driving our experience. And it's not just some vague unconscious that's personal. It has a personal expression, but it's like the whole organism of like, what is the unresolved stuff in mass consciousness? Somebody, it's not even somebody else, but there's like this other gigantic collective influence that has their fingers on the knobs of like, watch this. And if we're running unconscious patterns, we run them and we respond accordingly, right?
Totally, because like attracts like, and so whatever is more powerful within us, and you know, if we don't do our work and we just wake up and just go out there, we will be more influenced through the unconscious programming rather than consciously devoting, I'm doing my work and I'm living my life from that creation place versus checking out.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I've noticed when I practice or play with it day to day. If I choose to just wake up like everybody else versus doing my work, my day goes dramatically different because I'm the creator of my life and what I'm seeing out there versus, you know, consciously asleep because I'm aware of what I'm doing in that day, but they're more challenging, I think, when I'm not in alignment and being really fully here. And so usually by the half the day, I'm like, all right, let's just break through that and let's just get in because I don't want to live that way anymore. But it's a fun game to play because if we don't see the difference and the subtleties of really how we create our lives, then we don't know anything different or better. We have to see the subtle changes for us to recognize, that was different. And I did this, which created something different. And so there needs to be an experiential of a shift and a difference subtly, because I hear you talk about the subtle realm. I'm bringing that now to the body. Like there is a subtleness into the body that there is supposed to be, you know, this ebb and flow of consciousness and flow. And so I've been kind of taking your word of the subtle realm of where is that in the body? So I've just kind of been exploring and like being, you know, a mad scientist of really going into another layer of really looking at it, which makes it that much more fun because things start to shift faster.
It does. Yeah. And I often think of you, even if I just go out for a walk, you and I have connected enough that I'm channeling Sarah, like, okay, what kind of questions would I be asking on my walk that take me into that level of presence that you bring to movement? Because that's always been a challenge as a super smart, intellectual head person, like body, you know, this is why I've been guided to do embodiment work because but out on my walks, like what are the subtleties of where energy is moving in my body and what would it be like if that were different, and exploring different ways of foot placement and weight and alignment of my spine, or you know, just all sorts of these subtle experiments of noticing, whoa, that opens up the flow. And oh, there's the posture of checking out, head in the clouds again. And here's the difference. Those type of inquiries have become more consistent and fun because of your influence. So thanks for that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you saying that because what came to mind is that when you're saying like the intellectual, I do think, and I'll have to like check on this, but I feel the high intellectuals don't necessarily feel their bodies from a muscular place because the intelligent accesses their nervous system differently. And so there's some people who, you know, well, I'm sore, like they're always talking about how physically they're sore they are. And so we can carry tension either in our muscles, which allows us to help move and shift it. And then there's a way we can hold tension in the bone, and the bone doesn't have nerve endings. We can, like a jack in the box, we can have life happen to us and we think we're fine. I don't feel anything because I'm not sore, but the tension is building and building and building and building. And so those high intellectual beings who are doing a lot, they're making things happen. They may feel connected to their body, but there's a small disconnect because they're running a tension building from their bone per se. And so as you release the tension for it to disperse out into the musculature, to then go, oh, now I'm aware, because we're not aware what we're not aware of. And so we hold tensions differently. And so it's the nervous system that really needs to be on board with what's going on here. And so the embodiment piece, and it's cool that you're saying all that with the walking, because the more we can walk and engage, and yet if we're not in tune again to feeling, because some people are very energetic, some people are more physical, and it's the magic when you can have them both, because we can be like strongly physical and just contract all of our muscles and we're 100% physical, or be very, very light and be energetic. We need to be 50% of both of them, where that's where the magic happens. And so it's just, but if we don't know that and we're just all physical or just all energetic, we're missing that spark. Yeah.
And as you're speaking, it's just reminding me of two instances in the last couple of years where I've shared with you an experience I had physically and then processed it with you a little bit, where my body either should have been really sore because of what I just did and it wasn't, or it should have been fine. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it hurts. And so I'm going to shortcut this into a phrase because I want to hear you riff on this a little bit. But one of the phrases that you used a minute ago was, okay, I'm halfway through my day. I'm going to stop and get in so I can change the trajectory of my day. And it's that get in, and it's that question, am I in? Am I here? That is the difference between my body having a physical experience of like, oh, that should have been really painful, and being fine. So I would love to hear for you, what does getting in mean? And what does that look like for you when you do that? You catch yourself and go, oh, I got to get in. Walk us through what is that like for you?
Yeah. It'll shift and change, but the more recent one, which was, I would say, like the finer details, is that because we can lift out of our spine through muscle, or we can lift out of our spine through energetic. Because people will like force their posture. So for example, forcing anything is not where we want to go. We're not forcing it. It's tuning into breath and the energy and almost sitting back into my spine, because we tend to go forward in the day and just, and so it's just about really just shutting my eyes, and I breathe through above my head down into my root chakra. And if I'm not able to come all the way through, I know my mind is on board. And so I need to do some more breath work. So the mind needs to serve me. And so it's about me getting into myself. And like I said, for the mind to serve me at my highest good. When I'm not connected, my mind will be chattering and I'm more, I can feel I'm more tense. And so for me, it's just because I've done it for so long, it can just be an instant of a breath. It could be lifting. So when I'm breathing where I'm dropping like from my root chakra down. And so it's like, if this is our pelvic floor and I'm breathing down. And so then when I'm exhaling, it's exhaling back up through. And so the channel is coming up and through. And so for me, I'll breathe down, which then also activates the palate in the in my the soft palate in the mouth. So it's just like it's dropping down. And then as I'm exhaling, it just aligns me up and through. And so from that, I'm just here. So I can do something as simple as that. There's times where things happen in the day where we weren't ready for it. And now I'm learning to embrace it first and go, oh, apparently that was supposed to happen for me, versus being triggered and resisting it. And so I've been learning to like embrace whatever just happened. I'm embracing it I'm embracing it and like, okay. And then I'll do, maybe a different exercises to really allow that nervous system come into my body so I can invite it in, versus go from my old programming as if that was not supposed to happen. Like I'm in control of my worldly experiences. And it's just like, we're not. Everything is perfect for us. And if I'm going to live from that place, everything that happens in my day is perfectly aligned for me. And so I'm like trying to embrace that more. And so I'm actually physically sore from opening and embracing more, because I'm physically shifting and changing from just doing that. Okay, we're going to embrace what just happened, whether it's like, whatever it is. And so it's just, but even just allowing more life in, because that's what it is. We're allowing life in.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And so
right.
I'm allowing more life in, which then I now have to build more circuitry because I didn't have more life in before.
That's
so
right.
I have to then like, oh my gosh, where is that going to land? I have to do my work. And I'm excited to actually do the work. Whereas before I'm like, I'm not motivated, but now I'm like, oh, bring it on. Now I'm more like, yes, let's see what comes in my way, because I will have the circuitry in my bodies, in my life to then really have compassion for it. Because right now I'm not one with compassion with what comes in. That's the goal, right? To have compassion.
That's right. Or at least equanimity.
Yeah. So
Right.
So anyway, so that'll be fun to see how that shifts. Quite honestly, by the end of the year, I can embrace things that come to me with compassion because I have the circuitry in place. Because that's really ultimately that I want to be in you and have more compassion. And the road is the great place for me to know if I've got it or not. Because, like, oh, you don't have it today.
This?
I'll try that one tomorrow.
How about this? Oh, shit, no.
No, not going to do compassion today.
Well, this is a topic we could riff on for hours, and we have just a few minutes left. So I want to say on that note, this is often a conversation I'm having with groups and clients as people are expanding into the next level of their life, whether it's financial abundance or higher level clients or more influence or all the things that they want. It's all about expanding capacity, period. That is the fundamental function of what has to happen for you to be and receive more. And so expanding your capacity is exactly what you were saying, that art of allowing ourselves to receive more energy, receive more intensity, and metabolize it more swiftly. And that means, everybody wants the good stuff, like, oh, I want this and I want this and this, but we have to expand the capacity into, can we receive the inverse? So here's the triggers of the things that come up that used to really drive you crazy or trigger you. And like we were talking about last week, the artistry is developing a skill set of tools to move it through the body more quickly. Because we were talking about that, we can have meditation practices, we can have breath work practices. Breath work is an integration, but the practice of, okay, I can meet this with equanimity is great. But did the body get the memo?
Right.
Right. And so what is that, like you said, to open and embrace, feel it fully and move it through without resistance, without judgment, and just let it be the passing of energy through the nervous system. That is the flushing of the system that allows an expanded capacity. And that's how we become more powerful in creating all that we desire, right? Does that jive with how you see it too?
Totally. And you said it's perfect because you blow your circuits. And I think that's where a lot of people resist it because they don't have it in place to really allow it to come in. So, hey, now that's actually interesting because now that would make sense, right? So if I don't have the circuitry in place, I would resist it because I can't bring it in. But then it also looks like, oh, I'm being triggered by an unconscious programming. So my programming is running me. So is it the programming or is it the energy that can't hold you?
Chicken, egg. Okay.
Seriously.
Right. No, that's right. That's right. And so where is it that's not even the question. The hypothesis is, from my perspective, we consistently develop the impetus to say, I want to expand my capacity. Therefore, I am going to interrupt the pattern and I am choosing to be a creator of my circuitry. And it has to be that internal impetus that is evolution in action, that you're connected with the evolving cosmos that says, I am growing and expanding and you are the arms and legs of the cosmos. And you're like, oh, right, that's my identity. That's me. I have to choose to metabolize this shit because that's me in alignment with the laws of nature. Now we just blew it open into a much bigger conversation just as we have to wrap up. But let's end on that note.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Right? That's how they go. Like we can have 2-hour conversations. It's like we're just in the flow. So this was really fun.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
But I'm serious. I have to, that question is like, I have to seriously, I'll play with that today because that's quite interesting because I think it's 2-part, right? Energetically, we'll keep resisting a pattern unconsciously because we don't have the circuitry in place to allow that unconscious patterning to come in for our expansionness. So yeah.
What comes first? Well, yeah. Oh my gosh, we could go into that for hours. All right, we have to click stop. We have to go. But
but it's as simple as if you're doing the work, you are able to instantaneously get back into your body. And it's just, for me to go through the steps, it's years of, like 19 years of doing this work of, depending on my day, I can actually go to a moment in time where I was receiving body work and actually just realign to a higher level, depending on what I'm doing, and so that's what I just want to say is that it really is instantaneous that you can shift and change things. So we just got to do the work and build the circuitry. So
bingo.
This was so fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This was gold. All right, we'll pick it up and continue the conversation again, but we'll leave it with the existential question for now. And thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
Okay.